Hey, what is going on, guys? So here, as you can see, I'm all ready to start a new painting project. If you can't tell what kit this is straight off the bat, this would be the HGUC Narrative Gundam C-Packs. So I'll talk a little bit more about my plans for that here in a moment. But the reason that we're starting this project here is because I was sent some stuff to try out here from Armored Komodo. Armored Komodo is a company that makes paints and other similar products. What they're going to be most known for here, I think, is their pigments, which is what we're going to be focusing on trying out here. So I'll talk more about those just in a second, but they did also send me some green moss weathering pigments, which I don't think I'll be using for this particular project. I'll have to keep this for using later, but this is just some weathering pigment. As you can see, again, just, yeah, green moss weathering pigment. And then we also have some of their water-based black and white light curing base coat. So these will be for the base coat that you'll use underneath the pigments here. So these are also light curing, so you want to make sure to keep these out of sunlight, especially as much as you can, and it's because otherwise they're gonna dry out. So, or not dry out, solidify up in there anyway. So you want to keep those out of the light. And the pigments that they sent me here are Inca, which is a color shifting pigment here, green and gold. So that has a really nice color to it. That's going to be the one that we're going to be using the most, I think, here for this particular project. And then we've got a different gold. This one is chrome gold. So as you can see, this one is kind of more sparkly kind of gold, and not exactly sure how this is going to look actually on the part. I have a feeling it's not going to look quite like that. So we're going to do some tests before we get to using these on the parts anyway. So I definitely need to test out that one. And the last one here is Shibui, and this is a blue-red shifting color. And so this one, again, it's not really too clear to see this one in the bottle, so we're gonna have to do some tests here. And one thing to point out about these, as you can see, the background color on these is different. This one has the dark background, so that means it's meant to be used with the black base coat, and the other one, the Shibui, has a white background, so that means it's meant to be used with the white base. So let's talk about how I plan to use these here for the kit. So actually, I should also confess that this stuff was sent to me probably like 2 months ago, and I've been waiting to use it just because I didn't really have any project in mind that really particularly would focus on using a lot of gold. So I was waiting for some project to come up where I would really have a good chance to utilize this gold. And what I thought to do was to make the Narrative Gundam C-Packs here into a golden narrative, so make it sort of like the Phoenix. And then I was thinking, well, I might as well change the shield too, because the C-Packs shield is kind of stupid looking. I don't really like the design of it, so I thought if we're gonna make it like the Phoenix, why not give it an Armed Armor DE shield? So I got one of these just bootleg third-party Armed Armor DE shield sets, the set of 2. So I'm gonna use one for this, and I'll use one for something else later on. So I'm using that Armed Armor DE shield for his shield instead of the one that was included originally with the kit. Otherwise, nothing really too much changed about that. We're just going to be painting it in different colors, obviously. So for all of the parts that are in white, and then these secondary parts which are in like kind of off-white, light gray color, these are also going to be in gold as well. So what I'm thinking is for those, they're going to be, you know, primed and then base coated in black, and then we're going to be using the Inca gold green color on that. Again, pending, this is all pending doing some testing to see how the colors look. And then the next part is the frame parts, the joint parts, and everything like that. That's just going to be standard gray. The backpack and the feet, that's just going to be in dark blue. So again, just keeping like with the Phoenix colors. And these are already dark blue, but I'm going to be painting those into just a kind of normal dark blue. The cycle frame is the part that I'm really not too sure about, because I've got 2 different ideas. One was that I use one gold, the Inca gold, for the white parts, and then the other gold for the cycle frame parts. So basically it would be 2-tone gold, and it won't like have the cycle frame parts in it. But my other idea is, if this is really as sparkly as it looks, I don't really like kind of how sparkly it is. So I don't know, depending on how the tests go, may not use that for the cycle frame. What I may do for the cycle frame is then prime that in probably just white, and I don't know if I'll really need to use this base coat white, because then what I want to do is then spray some fluorescent blue on that, so make that a really nice bright fluorescent blue, and then use the Shibui on it, which is a blue-red shift, so that'll make it sort of bluish purplish, I think, color just for the cycle frame parts, and it'll be like kind of shiny bluish purple too. So that could look pretty cool for the cycle frame as well. So basically, we need to do some testing to see how this is gonna look. So I've got some plastic spoons here. I'm gonna go ahead and give these some priming and then base coating. Now the thing about these is that for applying the pigments, you want to apply them just shortly after applying the base coat. So what was recommended to me was that after you apply the base coat, then to wait about an hour, and so that the base coat is not totally cured, so it's still a little bit tacky, and that's the time when you want to put on the pigment. And they also recommend using either just a black plastic glove or a silicone brush for applying that. Now I couldn't find either of those here locally without ordering online, so what was recommended to me is one of these makeup applicator sponges, and this was recommended to me by my wife who does nail art, and she said they use basically the exact same kind of pigments for nail art, and she said they just use these sponges and it works well. So otherwise you can just use your finger. You don't necessarily have to use a plastic black glove over the top of it, but that was just what was recommended for just to ensure you get a better feel for that. So I'm gonna try using these sponges. So let me get the spoons prepared and then we'll do some tests with these. Alright, so this is gonna be the first experiment. Now I've got the fluorescent blue sprayed on top of some white primer. It's a little bit light. I might go a little bit darker on the actual parts, but for the time being I just want to try out the stuff here itself. Now we've got a little seal here I need to open up as well. I just sprayed this like 10 minutes ago, so it should still be like not totally cured, I guess the state how we want it to. And again, I don't have the right, what was it, silicone brush for this, but just going to try rubbing this on here with this sponge and see how it's looking. I think you guys should be able to see some of that iridescent sheen on there, but it's not covering the whole thing, so I think I need some more of this on there. So let me try that. But I gotta say, I'm trying it and it's just not really seeming to be working well. Now I'm not sure if maybe just the sponge is just not right, but like I said, it was what was recommended and it should work. I think what the problem was that I maybe waited a little bit too long. Maybe the paint was already too dry. I needed to do it maybe while the paint was still a little bit more wet. Alright, well, I'll have to troubleshoot that for the time being. Let's try test number 2 on the, I got the black base sprayed here. I'm going to try the Inca Gold. So let's hope for better results this time. I mean, it's on there, and in the reflection, I mean, in the light, I think it looks pretty cool, but I can still see kind of like the strokes of this, and it looks very dark too. So I don't know if that's just like how it's gonna look, just because it's just not meant to be all that bright, but it's very dark. So I don't know if putting on more pigment will make it lighter. I don't think so, but I'm gonna try it just to see for sure. If we put on a little bit more, maybe it will get lighter, but I don't know, that black base it's making it very dark for sure. But let's try this anyway. Well, I can say it's not lightening up very much, maybe a little bit, but now that I put some more on, you're seeing less of like the brush strokes or just the movement strokes of the sponging on there. So I guess putting on a little bit more did help with that. But yeah, still kind of dark, so I don't know if I'm gonna eventually maybe end up using this for this project or not. It's a bit darker than I was hoping, but I think that's also where you're seeing some reflections, it's really bright gold, and that's just because we have a really large flat surface here. I think on the smaller individual parts of the Gundam kit that we're going to actually be using, we'll see a lot more reflections on all the little surfaces, and so we have a lot more like shining bright little gold surfaces on the parts. So I think it might still turn out okay, but you can see it's just, yeah, whatever is the reflection it's going to be, whether it's really bright or dark on there. So anyway, it's a pretty dark base, And at least that experiment seemed to be a bit more successful than our first one. So the first one I'm still not sure. Maybe it's just because it's on that fluorescent blue that it's just not very visible. But let's go ahead and move on to our third test here of the chrome gold. So once again, I just got the black base down on there. And I can see now, one thing I was noticing on this is that it looks a little bit uneven, where some parts it went on better than others. And I'm seeing on this one, which is just with the black base, where some parts where I can see it's starting to be more dry than other places. So maybe that's why it's a little bit inconsistent. So maybe like the tackiness of the paint, how like solid your coverage is. And I went over this pretty well to get a good solid coverage, but I can still see some parts where I must have had more paint than others. So I guess you want to make sure that that all gets really nice and wet on there. Almost had a big accident there, spilling that entire thing. That was close, but all right, let's try this chrome gold and see how this is gonna look here. Oh yeah, I can see it's sticking so much better to the areas that were a little bit more wet. So yeah, I guess your paint really needs, you really need to make sure that you're putting it on before it's totally dried up, because you can see a huge difference there with this one especially. There you guys, you guys can see where the paint was the right amount of tackiness. It looks great. So I think this is actually going to be the color that I'm going to use. I was thinking that I was probably going to end up using the Inca color on the finished kit, but I actually think that this one is going to be more correct for what I'm going for. So I think I'll probably end up using this for all of the armor parts. As far as the frame though, it's going to take a little bit more experimenting, because I'm not happy with this experiment here of the white and fluorescent blue and the Shibui combination there for this one. And I also think that I can now say for certain that I don't want to do the two-tone gold, which I was also considering as an option for this. So for now, I'm going to try a couple more experiments, try to get some feedback from some friends in the community. If you guys have used this stuff and you have any other useful feedback, do feel free to share that down below. That will be helpful to me and to anyone else watching the video, of course. Alright guys, so scratch that ending. I didn't feel good about leaving the video there, ending on a note of kind of failure, basically. I wanted to give you guys the second test here in the same video, so it's gonna extend the video out a little bit longer, so sorry about the length of it here, but I wanted to do our second test. Now it turns out, after I got some advice, talked with some of the AK guys, and it turns out that I was a little bit just misinformed, or I just had the wrong information basically about the curing time for these. So I said that you should wait about an hour for the black base to dry before applying the pigments. Turns out that was for if you're using the lacquer version of the base. The base coats that I'm using are water-based. The water-based ones, you're apparently only supposed to wait about 10 minutes or so. So I've just waited, it's just been now about 10 minutes, so I'm gonna try these out. And now I also have a silicone brush to use as well. So I'm going to try out the silicone brush, see how that works versus the sponge, and then we're also going to be trying this with the new updated curing time. So we'll see, if this works any better now. So I'm going to test out the Inca once again first, if I can get that. There we go. Yeah, so we're going to try the Inca first, and I'm still going back and forth about which colors I want to use for the kit. I am now thinking maybe I do want to just use both golds and have it two-tone, but I don't know, we'll see. Also, I think I haven't mentioned yet that these are available on USA Gundam Store, so if you guys want to pick up some of these pigments, you can get them on USA Gundam Store. Now I think currently they don't have the light curing base, just because I think there's some importing issues with importing those into the US, but at least the pigments themselves, which can be used kind of with anything, you can get those on USA Gundam Store for about $8 or $9 or $10 each. So yeah, check those out if you want. So far it seems to be going on very smoothly. I like the brush, but I think I also put a little bit too much on, so I'm noticing I'm losing some pigment here. But let's just try to work this around as much as we can. I'm seeing it does look pretty good from this angle, although with me doing this on camera I can't see it very well. So you guys are seeing this actually maybe a little bit better than I am at the moment, but at least from what I can see from my angle, it does look like it's going on pretty well. So now definitely I'm seeing some better results here with this. Now as you can see it now, you're seeing some brush strokes on there, but I think that what we need to do with that is we need to brush this up. So I think they recommended using just a very soft brush and just lightly dusting off basically the excess pigment, and that's basically what's causing the brush strokes. If you just kind of dusting off all this extra stuff, you can see it's kind of making a bit of a mess here, so that's why I have just this flattened box here, just so I'm not making too much of a mess here on my desk, because I'm seeing, you guys probably aren't seeing it on camera, but I'm seeing the little clouds of dust floating off of this, clouds of the pigment. So, but that is getting rid of the brush strokes that were there from the silicone brush, and it's looking very shiny indeed. So there you go, that is miles and better. So that's definitely much better. Now it's not looking super smooth, and that's just because my prep work on this spoon was very simple. I just gave it a really quick light sanding and then just sprayed the primer, sprayed the base coat on it just real quick, and then, you know, here we are 10 minutes later. So there we go. Definitely that's a big improvement though. Obviously I have already done better surface prep on all the parts for the kit, so it won't really have that kind of little bit rough textured surface to it, but it's definitely a big improvement. So let's try out the chrome gold as well. So the other thing that I'm worried about now with these is that 10 minutes is a very short amount of time. So if I have like a bunch of parts, I'm thinking what I'm gonna have to do is just spray just like 10 parts at a time, spray them, run over here, get the pigment on there before the 10 minutes is, you know, goes by too far, and then have to go like kind of back and forth. So if you only have like a couple of parts, I think it'll be okay, but if you're working with a bunch of parts, I feel like you're gonna kind of have to do some juggling to try to make sure that you're not waiting too long on these parts, and trying just to get a little bit, try not to be as wasteful this time. Trying to be a little bit more careful with this one. Alright, so that is pretty good. Let's give it some dust off here to clean your gamer gunk. It's the dust off stuff, it's the good stuff. Got here. And didn't get like all around the edges of the spoon, it's not really particularly necessary. Just need to get a good enough coverage just to kind of make sure I'm doing what I'm doing correctly. And it's still looking a bit sparkly. I feel like from the sample images I've seen, it's not that sparkly, so I don't know if I'm just still not quite maybe doing it quite right. It's been a little bit longer than 10 minutes because I spent a few minutes working on that first piece on the first spoon. So now this one, it's been like 15 minutes, if not maybe a little bit longer. So if that is really going to be making an issue for that, so yeah, I'll have to talk with the group some more, chat with them about maybe some issues about that. Just trying to keep it within that time limit. But once again, I'm seeing much better results now from this one. So you can see here from my first test to the second test, it's a big improvement there for that one. And let me just for comparison's sake, we'll compare the first and second test of the Inca as well. Now honestly, the first test of the Inca didn't go that bad. See, it's this one here, it looks pretty alright. The second one though, it's definitely much brighter, which is what I was looking for. This one I felt was a little bit very dark. It has a better mirror finish. I think that's again just due to the surface prep. It was better on this one. This one with surface prep was more rushed, so that is kind of the problem for this. But it is much brighter, which is good. That's what I was hoping for. So I'm very pleased with that. So yeah, I think using these two for a two-tone gold will work, luckily. So that means that the majority of the kit will be gold. So I think what I'm going to do is use the Inca with the green tone for the armor, and then for the Psycho frame I'll use the chrome gold, so it's got that kind of a pure, a little bit more sparkly, shiny kind of gold, kind of a little bit shine to it, so it'll be kind of a nice, cool two-tone. Because unlike the Unicorn, the Narrative has a lot more kind of exposed frame on the outside. I think just its outward appearance, there's a lot of Psycho frame there. So you will see like a lot of the Psycho frame. You will see a lot of this over the Inca, which will be kind of more in the background for like what will be the white parts of the kit. So anyway, that is it for the test. A much better second round of testing for that. I will still probably consult with the Armored Komodo guys and in our group chatting to maybe try to get a little bit more information to see what other maybe useful information they can share now that I've done another test. But for the time being, that looks like it's going to work for our purposes for the Narrative Gundam C-Packs. So in the next video, we'll be working on painting the actual kit. So I've already got some of the parts already painted, the parts that aren't using the pigments. And so we'll be working on all the pigment parts next time. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.